Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. These interviewed are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to past, present, and future legends, as well as business owners, employees, media, and land use warriors. Men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle we call off-road. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world that we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, I'll be talking to a man who has worn many hats, created a successful business from a hobby, created an iconic car or two, won championships in rock crawling, and found a lifestyle to keep him healthy and alive. Hello, Brent Bradshaw. It's good to have you on this show, on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Well, hi, Big Rich, and this sounds like it's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah. So let's jump right into it and let everybody know where you were born and raised.
Well, I was born in Redlands, California. I actually grew up in Riverside, California, which was actually in the country at that time, believe it or not.
Right.
I had dairyland behind my house, and at the end of the road, I had foothills that I rode my bike and shot rabbits and caught snakes and had fun doing it.
Got to do all the things that country kids get to do.
I came home real dirty every day.
I would imagine most of the people in Riverside nowadays are not out hunting rabbits.
No, I wouldn't imagine. I mean, I haven't been back there, and I don't think I want to.
Right. So, growing up in that area, Redlands and Riverside, what was, like you said, you were able to ride your bike, go out and hunt rabbits and do all that kind of stuff. What did you do as a family?
Well, I was born and raised in a dedicated, financially challenged,
okay,
but dedicated Christian family. We were at church every Sunday and every Wednesday night and every Sunday night. So that's pretty much how I grew up.
Okay, so you were that cut into probably family vacations then.
Well, the only family vacations I remember is coming up here to look for a new place to be in Oregon.
Okay. And what did your parents, I'm assuming your dad was the breadwinner. Did your mom work?
They both did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did your dad do?
My dad was a precision machinist. He worked for some of the top secret aerospace. He was real proud of the parts he was able to sneak home, and the explosive bolts that separated the sections of missiles and rockets and cool stuff like that. I mean, down to the point where everything had to be inspected. You couldn't have a pencil line on it.
Right. Wow. Okay. And your mom?
my mom, did various things. She was administrative secretary for, a hospital, or she worked, I know, for Bourne Industries. Of course, I moved from there when I was 9, so some of that was a little outside of my realm of
okay.
knowledge.
Right. And so you went from Riverside up to Oregon?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what part of Oregon did you guys first move to?
Well, we first moved up to Salem,
Okay.
and it was okay for a while, but that was climate shock for us. I was used to playing in 90, 100-degree weather, and it was wet all the time.
Right.
It rains a lot up there.
That's why it's the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Or the Beavers.
Yeah, either rust or get webbed fingers. Yeah.
There you go. And how long were you in Salem?
Only a couple of years.
Okay.
And then we moved back down to my grandparents. They had a couple houses there in Big Bear Lake.
Okay. So you were up in the mountains then?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And what was it like? Do you remember the transition from like Southern California to Salem and then back to Southern California? I know that, like myself, I stayed in the same neighborhood basically from first grade until a senior in high school.
Well, back in that time, up here in Oregon, things were very much more conservative oriented, believe it or not. It's not what you hear on the news about Oregon, but it was that way. And then moving back down to Big Bear Lake was, it was another culture shock. It was culture shock. Middle school I went to there. The kids, talked back to the teachers and would curse them out, and it was I wasn't used to that.
Right. And did your dad stay as a machinist the whole time?
Oh no, he did various things.
Okay.
He was, he was talented in a lot of different things. Whatever jobs were available, he worked for the city at one point. I know he worked at UCLA at one point, doing maintenance. So yeah, he did various things.
And how long did you stay in the Big Bear Lake area?
Not that long. I think only about a year, if I remember right. And then we came back up here to Southern Oregon.
Okay. And which town did you move into then?
So we actually moved to Jacksonville, Oregon.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's just out. It's a historic town from like the 1800s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a little tourist attraction. It's about 5 miles west of Medford, Oregon.
Okay. And since then you've pretty much stayed in that Southern Oregon area.
Oh no.
Oh no? Okay.
No, I finished out school here in Medford. Yeah, I graduated from Medford Senior High School. And then that was 75, and those were interesting times. I was I was the person that didn't do a lot of things I should have done right, and did everything I could do wrong, pretty much.
Okay, I get it.
Age.
You and I are just a year apart in graduation. I graduated in 76.
Yeah. So you know how those days were. There were lots of things to get into that, you had to recover from.
Yes.
So at any rate,
what did you do school-wise, say in Medford? Did you participate in shop classes or any sports, or were you just kind of like a rebel?
Well, They had a program that called the early bird schedule for the kids that wanted to have jobs. So basically what I manipulated the system where I was really good in the shop classes. So I had to take two main subjects, and then the rest could be electives. And so I manipulated it to where I took my wood shop, my auto shop, and my metal shop all together.
Okay.
And once I got real well established and the shop teachers knew that I could do, excel in those categories, I'd tell my wood shop teacher I was going to go work on a project at the metal shop, and the metal shop teacher I'd go work on a project over at the auto shop, and I'd leave.
Okay.
And walk about 2 miles to a body shop and go sand cars so that I could get my first car painted. I was trying to work towards a paint job.
And what was that first car?
Oh, man, you wouldn't believe it. My first car was a 55 Chevy Nomad.
Nice. A Nomad.
Yep.
Wow.
And I got that when I was 14, actually.
How'd you score that?
Well, like I said, in my growing up days, we were very financially challenged.
Okay.
So I anything I got, I had to earn or trade, borrow, whatever it took to get it. So I raced go-karts. I started racing go-karts early, like 12.
Wow. Okay.
There was a go-kart track here, and I mean, my whole life, if I would nail tricycle wheels or lawnmower wheels to 2x4s to make go-karts to, whatever rolled, I loved. So anyway, I was riding the bus every day up this one street, and I could see across the field into these people's backyard, and I seen that car, and I knew what it was immediately. And every day I'd drive by it for over a year. And finally, I got my dad to take me and find a house in that neighborhood. And I knocked on the door and asked them if they'd sell me that car. And it turned out that his brother had come up from Southern California and left it there. And they wanted it out of there. And all I could muster, I ended up selling my go-kart and my mini bike. And all I could get together was $375. And he took it.
Wow. That's pretty good. My first car was a 1954 Volkswagen Bug, and I bought it for $300 because that's all I could muster.
Yeah. Right.
So then what did, besides working for the body shop to get the car, the body work done and paint, what else did you do to the car before you got it at 14, you didn't start driving until 15 and a half, 16?
Well, that wouldn't be true either.
Okay.
Both my parents would go to work, and I'd collect enough pop bottles that would gather up a couple bucks worth of gas. And I'd drive out to the river every day and coast all the way down Jacksonville Hill to try to make it back home. And so that was how I did that.
And what did you do while you were down at the river?
Well, it was a little waterfall swimming hole there, and of course it was full of hippies because that was what was going on in those days.
Right.
So we'd hang out there and it'd
partake.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yep.
And Oregon was known back then for some pretty good tobacco, you might say. Wacky tobacco.
And still is. You can't drive around here without the smell of
Mary
Larson.
Jane, yes.
Yep.
I can remember one of the first albums that I memorized almost word for word was the Cheech and Chong Big Bamboo.
Yeah.
You know, and howdy, friends and neighbors, El Monte Slim telling you to come on down here to Wide Track Wimbledon Dodge. Hello, Dave.
Dave's not here.
Exactly. See, I grew up just south of San Francisco, San Bruno, California. So I was, I was a hop, skip, and a jump from ride the bus into
Right.
Golden Gate Park and Haight-Ashbury because my mom worked at UC Medical Center,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was right there on Parnassus and what is it? Haight, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just a few blocks from the Haight-Ashbury, and so it was, in Golden Gate Park, and that's where I hung out as a kid from like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and even beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
it was amazing. I don't know, something about this location that we had the Medford Army. Wasn't all that big, but all of the great bands would come here. So man, I got to see incredible concerts.
Right. Yeah, we had Bill Graham, so I mean, I did a lot of, it was Fillmore West and the Days on the Green when I was in high school,
Mhm.
at Oakland Coliseum, and then at, concerts at Candlestick, and just, yeah, it was Winterland. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
So you get through high school?
I did. I graduated. I actually made it.
Congratulations. And you were just old enough to where you didn't have to worry about the draft?
Man, I mean, I was sweating it too. I actually probably should have registered, but I got just under it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those days too. So have you watched the movie Dazed and Confused with Matthew McConaughey? It's the first movie that he did. It's about these kids that graduated in 1976, or I guess it's like the beginning of maybe it's the end of the school year of 75. But it's about teenagers growing up in that, the hot rods and drinking and partying, that kind of thing. Have you ever seen that movie?
Well, not that I recall, actually. No.
Oh, you got to watch it. You'll love it. You'll love it.
Oh,
bet
yeah.
You can pick your character, who you were out of the cast of characters.
More than likely.
Yep.
Yeah. Bleach burn-offs in the Bob's Big Boy parking lot, cruising town, racing from drag light to drag light. In those days, I was allowed to get 3 pages of citations. Now you get 3 tickets and you're out. But
3 pages. I was fortunate enough to run from the cops. The local police departments in South City, Daly City, San Bruno, Millbrae, Burlingame, Redwood City. Somehow I was able to get away a number of times, and even the highway patrol once, and never got a ticket for that. I got a ticket for exhibition of speed.
Yeah.
And they held us for like 4 hours so that we would get home after 2:00 at night, and thinking it was going to make a difference in that we didn't get home in time, and it didn't.
Yeah, I did that. I was in a 67 Impala SS and left a friend's house and lit them up like I always usually did. Next thing you know, I look in the rear view mirror, there's a Stater behind, coming my way. And so me and my friend took off, and ended up hiding in an orchard. They were on the radio, had a city cop, and I passed him going slow. And then I seen him hook a Yui behind me all smoky. And we head out in the orchard. Well, the next day, the state cop pulled me over for excessive noise tires, which really was probably not. He just a good reason to pull me over.
Right.
But he didn't run me. He just wrote me for excessive noise tires. But I was already on my second driving while suspended. So he came to my work and delivered me another ticket for driving while suspended.
Nice.
The next day. So yeah, those were wild days. That's without question.
So what did you do for work at that time after high school?
My first real big job, that was for, gainful employment was I went to work for a local wrecking yard, and I can't believe at that time I could look at a Dodge 343 flywheel or bell housing, and I could tell you exactly what it was, no matter what it was.
Right.
And so I was a pretty accomplished counter person at the wrecking yard for about a year. And then, I ended up with a girlfriend and decided to move to Carson City.
To where? Carson City?
Yeah.
Nevada.
Yeah.
Okay. What made a move to Nevada happen?
Well, her mom lived there, and
okay.
She wanted to move down there, and that's what we did.
How long were you in Carson City?
I was probably only there for probably less than a year.
Okay.
And then I moved to, and I fixed boats while I was there. Okay. I worked on Carson Marine fixing boats. And then I moved to Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
And yeah, I did a lot of different things. I was a waiter at Harrah's. I started out as a busboy, and right away they made me a waiter. And I hated that. I wasn't good at it.
You weren't good at being a waiter?
Yeah. I was a waiter at Harrah's in Tahoe.
And why do you say you weren't good as a waiter?
Well, my I've never really been a good communicator.
Okay.
Anyway, it was it just wasn't. First, I hate handling food, for one.
Right.
And I just really, they liked me, but I didn't like it. It just wasn't my forte.
Okay. What happened after that?
Well, I went to work fixing snowmobiles at the outdoor shop at the end of town.
Which is a nice winter job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I ended up moving back here to Medford for a little bit, only a couple months. And I was waiting tables at a prominent restaurant here called the Sandpiper. And that once again, I didn't like it, and it didn't work out. And so that was only a couple months. And then I went down to a different girlfriend down to Ventura, California.
All right. Well, you bounced around a lot.
Yeah. Well, we ain't done yet.
Okay. And then Ventura.
So yeah, Ventura, it actually was a previous girlfriend from high school that I went down to see. Ended up marrying her. Went to work for one of her friends that had a detail shop. course, they went off to Tahoe for a vacation, and evidently had too much fun and couldn't pay me when they got back.
Oh.
So I inherited a detail shop.
Oh, interesting.
Which quite successful. I had a couple guys working for me after it was all said and done, and I had all the Ford dealership, Chevy dealership, Toyota dealership. But we were busy. So did that for a few years, actually. And then I ended up selling it and started fixing copy machines.
Okay.
So that was real interesting. Copy machines people don't understand that a copy machine is one complex piece of equipment. There's a lot going on in there.
Right.
And so, yeah, they trained me. I went to work for Saturn Corporation. And I was pretty good at that. The neat thing about copy machines is everybody's got to have one. And I got to go see, my territories would change from time to time, but Vandenberg Air Force Base was one of them. I'd be escorted to the machine with a machine gun, MPs with no sense of humor at all.
Right.
They have an actual space shuttle launching pad. Few people know about there. They have the MX6 missile launching sites. I got to go underground. I got to fly out to the San Nicolas Island. All kinds of things. I'd be fixing a copy machine right next to a stiff. Super high security places. And got to see, on a military basis, one hand really doesn't get to know what the other hand's doing.
Right.
But the machine guy, he gets to go to all of them. The control rooms like you see on TV, just nothing but screens and, back in the day, computer stations and, buildings out in the middle of nowhere where every sound is recorded. Got to see lots of cool stuff. Anyway, then because I was real proficient at that, they made me a branch technical trainer for the Cerritos, Southern California area. So I taught people how to work on copy machines. And then I moved to, shorten it up a little bit. I just moved back to Oregon, mostly based on relationship issues.
Right. With that first wife.
I was always a foolish sucker for the shiny wiggly things, which, there's pleasure in that for a season, but then there are going to be consequences.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, I moved back to Oregon and
I take it at that point you were single?
Yes.
Okay.
And went work for another copier company here, and then I just started my own company, fixing copy machines.
Okay.
Copier service company.
So I got to ask the obvious question. So samurais are like copy machines?
Okay, so yeah, let's just skip ahead a little bit. So I manipulated the way of doing business. It was really cool. So I bought all these great big, $70,000 copier systems off lease, off government contract.
Okay.
And I'd go through them with a fine-tooth comb, just completely, refurbish them. And I was able to buy the supplies, the toner and developer and stuff off of government contracts, super cheap. And local companies, hospitals, even county offices, churches, really wouldn't want to afford that level of a piece of equipment. something that was rated to do 100,000 copies a month.
Right.
Well, I was buying them for little to nothing, putting them out, and because they were only doing, say, 100 or 200,000 copies a year, I owned the equipment, but I put it in there on a cost per copy basis.
Ah.
So they were really reliable, and every machine was a profit center. And I always had to be available. And that day, it was, you had to, I had to be on a pager all the time. If somebody called, I had to go,
Right.
So, but they were so reliable that because they were way over equipped, that I had a lot of spare time on my hands.
Okay. Makes sense.
So my hobby so basically in this neck of the woods, a 4-wheel drive vehicle that's light, nimble, and, small is, to get in areas where people don't go.
Right.
That was the key. So I had originally, my first 4-wheel drive I built was like 1982. And I wanted something real small. And it was before the Samurai. And I had found a Datsun pickup. Well, in 1965, Datsun pickups were actually all fine thread SAE bolts.
Wow.
It looked like a Hillman. I mean, I could just reach right over and roll up the other window. They're tiny.
Right.
And they made one that was a one-piece body, like an El Camino, not a separate bed.
Huh.
And they're kind of cute little thing. Anyway, I went and found a model or a Ford Jeep.
All right. An old MB. Yeah.
Yeah, 1940 Ford Jeep. And it was all scattered in a field, and I bought it. I don't remember how much, but I bought it and I used the old Model 25 axles and put them underneath this Datsun pickup and put a Mercury Capri V6 in it with a 5-speed tranny. And it was a pretty neat little truck.
Right.
It was all painted up real pretty, and the guy that got it for me actually had it in Peterson's afterward. But so that was, I was out there welding it together with barbed wire and a cutting torch, and that's what I had. But it came out pretty neat, and through its transition, it ended up with Dana 44 axles under it and whatnot. But that was what I'd first put together that was small, that I could get up the deer trails and in the tight spots around here.
Okay. And that was your first 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. Then the Samurai, it came out in the beginning, ultra light, e-ticket ride, that was the talk. And a friend of mine bought one, and I lifted it for him, did a spring over on it, old school trailer perches, and stretch out the brake lines because there wasn't anything for him at that time. And then I ended up actually crashing my nice little truck. I laid it over, and then I sold it, and I got a Samurai, and I had that for one day.
One day.
I lifted it, put 31s on it. We were out, 4:00 in the morning, could imagine. And there was a hill climb behind the people's house, and get out of the way, I can do that. And I flipped it over backwards and splat. And that was the end of that Samurai.
One day.
One day. Yep. So then I went I ended up with another samurai in a trade deal with a friend. And that started the whole deal. It actually was an SJ410, but I took all the parts from the so SJ410, to clarify, is a predecessor to the Samurai.
Okay.
The 84, 85 ones. Anyway, I took the axles, they're a little bit wider, and all the stuff from the one that flipped backwards, and put it under the SJ410 and built a real pretty little new Samurai. And
did you have that longer than a day?
Yeah, I had that one for quite some time.
Were you still doing the copiers at this point?
Yeah, I was. And basically, I had made a deal with the company up north that had, a whole wrecking yard full of samurais. And I made a deal with them to for $3,500 to build a samurai of my desire. I'd pay him $3,500 for whatever I wanted out of the yard to build samurai. He said, "Yeah, cool, but you got to do it here so everybody can see what's going on." So I picked every single bolt, every cherry green zinc coated, the perfect bolt, every bolt from frame up from the yard, and built a white samurai that actually you could probably still find on Truck World Online. They did an article on it called the Rock Crawling Stump Jumping Warrior.
Okay.
Anyway, so I built the next samurai, and I ended up going down and visiting with Tim Hardy and coming up with quarter elliptic suspension for it, and did all kinds of interesting things. Made my own Nerf bars and bumpers, and so I had all this time on my hands while I still had the copier company, and it was just a hobby. I built a shop behind my house, and I started grinding gears in two and welding SJ410 gears to Samurai gears and building Nerf bars and bumpers and can racks. And it was just mostly to support the local community. That was my intention. Never intended to start a full-on company called TrailTough.
Right.
Well, it just blew up. It just blew up. Some guy online called and said, "Hey man, I'll host a web page for you for free. I'll design it. And I'm going, "Oh, okay." Well, what ended up happening was, I had 14 samurais behind my house in my little residential neighborhood that you would never know. It was all fenced, clean, tidy, no riffraff, nothing. But the company up north didn't like me selling used samurai parts without a wrecker's license.
Oh, yep.
So one day I got a knock on the door from, the city and the county and the DMV all got together and came to my door and said, "We need to look in your backyard." I said, "Okay." Well, there were 14 samurais back there getting motor conversions and suspension lifts and whatnot. People came from all over, Washington, California, everywhere. And they go, "You need to cease and desist immediately."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, okay." They go, "How long is it going to take you to get this cleared out of here?" I said, 45 days. You got 45 days. That's what they said. So I had to either poop or get off the pot at that point.
Right.
And it was more spite than anything, because it irritated me that they did that to me. And so I ended up selling the copier company.
Okay.
And I rented a little bitty building. Yeah, it was a big stretch for me at that time. It was like, oh man, pay a lease on another building. And anyway, I took my chances and leased this building downtown. And next thing you know, I got 16 cars in line getting motor conversions, and I'm on the phone. It's so blistering busy, I can't even pay attention. And I grew out of that building in like 3 months.
Well, that's a nice problem to have.
And then, so one of the customers said, well, we're moving out. It was a telecommunications company. We're moving out of a building, and the owner of the building is really nice, and he's really motivated to get someone in there. So I went, I talked to him, and sure enough, he was a super good guy. And he goes, I'll give you the first month, 3 months free.
Wow.
And the lease was 3 times what I had been paying. But he said, that'll give you a chance to get all your fencing built and get all set up. I said, well, yeah, how can I turn that away?
Right.
So there we went. I mean, we just went ballistic. It just went so crazy. It was almost, it was hard to keep up with.
And by that time, how many employees did you have?
Well, at that time, I probably had, just guessing, but not counting me and Linda, we probably had 3 other people.
Okay.
At the end of it, we had 9 other people.
And what year did you start? What year would you say was the start of TrailTough?
1991.
91. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were at that point, that was before the county and city and state came in and shut you down?
It didn't take long. I was only able to do that here for probably 3 months.
Okay.
Before they showed up at the door. So I had to, go full on legitimate with business license. I ended up getting a wrecker's license right downtown. That's unheard of, but they gave it to me.
Even after shutting you down.
Oh yeah. No, they weren't mad at me.
They just wanted your money.
Exactly. Plus, it wasn't, the neighborhood wasn't the place to do it. I never expected it to be that way. I just had a little job shop behind my house,
So when did you meet Linda in all this?
I met Linda probably a year before this took place.
Okay.
Just guessing. And she was the head of the meter readers at PP&L. And was actually pretty high up in the Pacific Power and Light.
Okay.
And they, right at the same time, wanted to restructure and wanted her to either move to Portland or Salt Lake City. And she'd been there 14 years or something. And so she didn't want to move. So she took her severance package and went to took college courses and graduated, got her degree in ministry.
Okay.
And so that all took place at the same time this TrailTough program took off, which was nearly an accident.
So that became your livelihood then.
It did. Yeah, we were front page of the newspaper, big full color ad, from rags to riches story. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when did you? I know when competitions, the rock crawling scene competitions with ARCA and all that got started, but when did you start getting into competitions? Was it something local?
Well, I never had intended to do that. What really blew my skirt up was building the cars. I love designing the parts and designing the cars and trying to think outside the box, come up with something a little different that, would work in a different way. So I built this real pretty little car. Well, it wasn't just me. I mean, I had a real good fabricator that worked for me at that point, just out of engineering school. And anyway, we team effort built the Crustacean.
Okay. Yep.
And we didn't build cars fast. I mean, everything was done by hand, but everything fit like a Chinaman did it.
Right.
Everything was just perfect. And it took time. I mean, it took us a little over a year to build that car, and still do business at the same time.
Right.
And so first thing I did with the car, I just want to go show it off, mostly. So I went down to Moab, Easter Jeep Safari, and oh my gosh, I felt like Michael Jackson. Hordes of people. I couldn't go to a restaurant. I couldn't go anywhere and park that car without people coming in and finding me. And
Do you think it was do you think that I know the car was, I remember it was extremely pretty, but it was also, you had the double wheels.
Yeah, and 4-wheel steer, and it was just it was
unique.
It was striking to look at. Yeah.
Right.
And so, and at that point in time, the whole rock crawling thing, up here, you drive, it's you got wet ground and woods, and there's a lot of finesse, a lot of throttle finesse and whatnot to get the job done, big ruts and erosion and that kind of thing. But at any rate, I just decided to go to that first Donner event in 2002.
Right. So that
right
was
after
the first one.
Well, that was my first lick at rock crawling.
That was kind of an off the hook event anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, Welder Boy and Tracy, and yep, it was pretty cool. Got to meet some people. I actually had a video clip that was pretty interesting. I mean, people were looking at the dualies going, okay, whatever. And we had that, I think it was an A3 climb that nobody was making like the first day. It was a real tough line. And somebody was videoing, and Welder Boy was standing there, and I ended up with a spotter strap and keying, on the key ignition, making that climb. I hear Welder Boy going, "Oh, maybe he's got something there."
Yeah, Bill Rowett, Welder Boy.
Yep. Bill Rowett. So that's what got me hooked. That's what got me started. And it was kind of cool because I think it was 4-Wheel Drive Sport Utility magazine actually put that car on the cover, which was fun. And then they did a follow-up article after, because I'd finished 4th in that event. And, first time out, I mean, there was a lot to learn.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Rock crawling taught me a lot of things. It was real interesting.
Patience?
More than that.
Right.
Way more than that. From racing, go-karts all these years, I actually won the championship in '81 in Oxnard. And I just showed up a nobody with a completely different setup than they were all running, and set the track record and won. Just, who's this guy? So that was cool. But, you know, it was all willpower and brawn. And, you know, going fast is one thing. It's you know, that's good adrenaline. But, you know, from my perspective, it's like going from a 2-dimensional world to a 3-dimensional world. And the adrenaline is far greater.
Going
when
slow?
you're got a half a tire hanging off a, you know,
A cliff.
10, 12-foot drop or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, that was, it's and yeah, patience. You got to put your pride and your testosterone, keep it in your pocket.
Right.
So basically, I just had to learn to be real concerned. I mean, it took me a while to get good, but I was determined to rise to that challenge.
And how long did you compete in the Crustacean?
Oh goodness, I think for I had to be 2 or 3 years, probably 2 or 3 years. Not remembering for sure, but at least 2 years.
Okay. And then after the Crustacean, is that when you went to was it a Campbell or a Scrapper chassis?
Neither.
Okay.
I in the middle, you know, I took a year off and built another car.
Okay.
That was weird. And that was the Honda mid-engine car.
That's right. Yeah, where you sat way over the front wheels.
Right.
Which always freaked me out. Any big drop, you're looking, the first thing you see is your feet.
Exactly. When you're going up, you're going up. Same thing going down.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that one because that was a transaxle buggy.
It was, yeah, with disconnects for the front and rear drive shafts. So that was the transaxle was my transfer case.
Right.
Because there was a differential in it as well as the transmission. And I custom machined a spool to get rid of the differential. But then I had disconnects that I designed and manufactured for the Samurai and Toyota to disconnect either the front or the rear drive.
Right. And how did you feel that buggy did?
Well, actually, had I been more experienced in driving, I mean, I was consistently second and third.
Right.
But I never did get first. Seldomly ever. I don't think I ever really got a fourth. I mean, I got all the trophies, you know, but pretty much second and third most of the time. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily pretty.
So after the Honda buggy and all those second and thirds, that's when you got into, was it a Campbell or was it what
I did is I just, you know, I bought Tracy's car.
Okay. So it wasn't a Campbell car. That was the Nelson and Nelson built
original
Scrapper.
Tiny. Well, no, Scrapper.
Right.
Tiny was O2 thin material, and they had to build a new one every race. But so yeah, that was the Scrapper chassis. And I was too proud to continue to run that car. I actually sold it right away and built a whole new one just like it.
Okay.
With the refinements that I thought it should have had. So I built a whole new one. But I used actually the running gear. I used the tranny and the motor and the Atlas from Scrapper.
Okay.
And sold the rest. I can't remember the kid's name I sold it to. It was number 8. And I believe he put a Subaru motor in it.
Oh, okay.
His name's not coming to me at the moment, but
Was that the like Todd Young?
no,
Okay.
no. Todd took pictures. It was funny because Todd took pictures of my car one after the other, and he amazed me because he did an incredible job from photographs to mimic that car.
Right.
But then he had a Toyota motor in that one.
Okay.
But he really did a nice job on that. Yeah.
There was a Todd, I can't remember his last name now, friend of Dean Bullock that had, that put the Samurai motor on the rear axle or something like that. Was that one?
Yeah, with the laid down shocks and stuff. But yeah, that was not him either.
Okay.
So anyway, and so that was my last best car that we ended up doing real well with that car.
And that was with Chris Poblano spotting by then?
Yes. Yep. That was with Chris.
And when did Chris start spotting for you? With the Honda car or with that scrapper car?
Well, right at the end of the Honda car, he called me and said, and I couldn't believe it. He called me and said, "Hey, do you need a spotter?" And I did. And I hadn't really paid much attention to his, ability, but I needed a spotter. Todd was my spotter for a little bit down at the Nationals when we had it down in Spring, Texas.
Okay.
But then he wanted to do his own car, and so I lost my spotter there. And Chris just called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, you need a spotter?" I said, "Sure." And yeah, we just, I wasn't too proud to just absolutely just wait and listen, and I learned to listen to your spotter.
Right. If your spotter did well. Yeah, and he did.
And yeah, he was incredible. Yep. And between, the maintenance of the car, my team at home, we just actually became a, pretty well-oiled machine at that time.
Right. And that was always those days battling Tracy.
Well, yeah. Tracy, the first event I won was down in Tucson.
Okay. The man-made course. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was my first place finish. And it was controversial because there was a rear steer situation where the rear steer is supposed to be locked, but it drifted off arbitrarily or whatever. And the fact was, it was beneficial to the course, and it was not a happy day for Tracy. And,
I remember that day. Yes.
So that was kind of the end of that program for a while until Missouri. But
But you had how many wins did you? You had a lot of wins in that car.
Yeah, I mean, after that, it was just like I just always pretty much mostly would win. In 2011, I did all the series, all the West Coast series. I did all of them, and I won every single one in 2011 except one. And Jesse kind of outsmarted me on that one event with one of those bonus lines you shouldn't have did.
Right.
So I took second on that one event, but the rest of them, all of them, 13 events for the season. I won every one. So that was a pretty spectacular year for me.
That's kind of like that run that John Bondurant did with Tiny, with Larry McRae spotting earlier, when they first did Tiny. That was like 2003 or 4.
Right.
And he had like 20 wins.
Yeah.
Across all the different rock crawling series. Right.
Well, unfortunately, the only ones that were available, were the two, California, Nevada other ones than We Rock.
Right.
And the U-Rock one pretty much had dissipated at that point.
Right. Yep.
And so that was the only games in town, and I did them all. So, yeah, that was kind of my pinnacle in 2011.
2011. And did you ever want to race King of the Hammers?
Well, at that point, I was able to be on the pit crew for Jason Scherer the year he won, the first year he won. And I seen what all was involved in that. And I just felt it was beyond my means and ability to dedicate that kind of time to. I mean, I don't want to. I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to do it just for the fun of it. I want to win.
Right. Yep.
And in order to win, you got to be all in.
True.
You got to be able to spend weeks down there at a time, mapping and GPS and, being able to establish 12 pit stops and crews. And it was time that once that transition took place, it just passed me up.
It makes sense. I mean, it really did blow up and advance at a quick rate.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's what a cool race. I mean, talking about reeling it in and, keeping your composure and, not letting your throttle pedal rule you. And being able to go across, vast expanses of land at ultra high, as fast as you can go, and then reel it in and rock crawl and bring that adrenaline level back down. I mean, what a challenge.
Right.
And strategy, rock crawling in itself. I don't think they understand the complexity really to do a good job. To the self-control and the ability to not worry about whether people don't like you using a spotter strap. You're going to just play it smart and for the points. It's about the win. Yep. And it's not about how cool you look doing it. And those are things I had to learn to overcome. It was a learning curve.
Right. Yep. And so the TrailTough, you're still doing, are you still doing TrailTough?
No.
Okay.
I'm not. So basically life changed when I got cancer.
Right.
So when you have life-threatening adversity, your priorities suddenly absolutely change. Your outlook on life, what life is all about, absolutely changes. It just does. And, you start realizing there's consequences for the things that we thought were fun. So anyway, I ended up going and having, it was cancer surgery where they had to do it robotically. I had to go up to Oregon Health Sciences University, and this doctor had invented this robotic camera system to go in and remove a tumor that was like, I don't know, inch by inch and a half. And they couldn't be got to any other way. Basically surrounded by pelvic bone.
Okay.
And so, and in the meantime, I'm doing all this, Linda's doing all this research on things you can do to, overcome cancer. And I learned a lot about diet and what cancer feeds on low oxygen, high acid, high sugar environment, that's what grows cancer, period.
Right.
And so basically I had to muster a lot of discipline. And I ate vegetables, mostly raw, some nuts, some seeds, and pretty much almost no fruit, just green apples mostly. And that's what I lived on for 3 years. No meat, no corn, no wheat, nothing like that.
Wow.
And so basically I'd take doses of food grade hydrogen peroxide that, would transition up to like 50 drops a day in 5 ounces of water. That's, double the oxygen element. Anyway, one of the hardest things I had to do is go back, because the doctor told me, okay, well, we need to do 2 more surgeries. And something called the Da Vinci method, where I want to take a section of my colon out and give me a stoma in a bag. And, then after what they took apart heals, and they go put it back together.
Okay.
And that was one of the hardest things. The doctor's telling me, yeah, I need to do all this. And I'm just sitting there with a smile on my face going, he goes, I can tell by the look on your face, you're not going to do it. I said, no, I'm not. And he said, well, if it comes back, I can't fix you. And I said, well, I'm going to try it this way. So there's a thing called the Hallelujah Diet, and stage 4 patients have overcome cancer by, maintaining discipline and doing this program. Anyway, it's been like 6 years now, and I had to go back every 6 months, and they'd x-ray me from the inside out. And
it's not come back.
You're all good. Yep.
Nice. So at that point, you sold or shut down?
Yeah. Basically, it was blistering busy. You're dealing with 9 different people that, every day there's something,
Right.
And stress. I wasn't good at stress. Everything had to be, if something didn't work out well, it really affected, it got to me. I wouldn't sleep, I let it eat me up. And so it was just, that level of stress wasn't compatible with me. So I just ended up selling it. They're still doing a great job. They building some pretty cool cars. But I sold it.
Okay. And when I texted you, you had a basket full of morels.
I did.
Is that one of your hobbies now?
That's my wellness program.
That's your wellness program. Okay.
So, I've always been an avid, hunter, fisher, outdoors person, and foraging is just right up my alley. And I'm covering miles up and down mountains, and that keeps me healthy. I'm 68, and I'm traveling with the young guys still, as far as that goes.
Nice.
And so, it's not a big money maker or anything, but it pays for my existence. So right now, I just came down off the hill. I'm normally up there for between 2 and 2.5 months, depending on, every season's a little different. And I'll pick morels for almost that full time, and then I'll transition into the King Bolete mushrooms. And, I make a little extra, subsidizes my Social Security,
Right.
Anyway, but, it's peace and solitude. I'm out there with my dog, and I'm, keeping my cardiovascular system up, and my muscle strength good. And yeah, it's healthy for me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you're on the horizon. What's your you just status quo? Keep it the same what you've been doing the last couple of years,
Well,
staying cancer free, or
you
you
know,
got any big plans?
I say these things, but and as soon as I was done with TrailTough, I told myself I'm all, and this is kind of how I do. As you can see, I've done a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And I don't usually look back. I just keep going to the next thing and trying to be good at that. But at this point, I got to act my age. You don't heal like you used to.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in just keeping it simple. I don't need all the stuff. My perspective, it's, well, I was going to say it's just wood, hay, and stubble. It's all going to burn. Yeah. So it's my time to play it ahead and I'm just keeping it simple. And so that's, I'm not stressed out, and it's a nice way to be.
And you and Linda are still together?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. She's out there right now. People coming picking up mushrooms.
Nice.
Yeah.
Linda was always such a fresh breath of air out there at the events.
She's just loved everywhere she goes. I mean, she's precious.
Yes. And so you're the mushroom man then.
Well, I mean, it's seasonal,
right?
As soon as I get here at the end of middle of July, beginning of August, I'll transition into huckleberries.
Okay.
I'll go pick huckleberries, and then when that's over, the matsutake mushrooms will be growing, and they're pretty good money.
Right.
They start out like $40 a pound, and they're heavy, big mushrooms. And then I got to take a break from that because it'll be bird season. So then I got to go fill the freezer full of grouse and quail. And then we transition into deer season, and we got a couple deer tags to fill.
Right.
And then we got elk season, which is only a week long, but so it's time to stock up the meat supply because I'm growing out of my diet now.
So you're adding the protein then from the red meats.
Yeah, red meats makes your system want to go acid, and you want it to be high alkaline, low acid. So lemon water, cucumbers, those all lower your pH. But meat raises it, especially venison. But as a outdoor hunter, fisher person,
right?
That's I don't like shooting anything that I don't eat. That's one thing I've never done. I don't just go do it for fun.
Right.
It's to fill the freezer. So anyway, yeah, that's.
So any regrets?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a lot of things I could have did different in life. That's for doggone sure.
Right, but nothing that's weighed you down.
No.
Good.
It's all a learning process. I needed to learn to love my neighbor as myself. I need to learn that real bad. And I needed to learn to love the Lord my God with all my heart and soul.
That's awesome. That is a great segue. That kind of ties the whole story back together.
Well, to me, that's what life's all about. So we're here for a short time in the vast, big picture of things. We're here to figure out, if we're from the goo to the zoo to you, or whether we have a divine creator.
Right. Well,
so that's my take, and I'm now a committed follower of Jesus, and I'm not going back.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Mr. Bradshaw, Brett, I'm so glad that we had this conversation. It's refreshing. Good. I knew that you had gotten sick, and I was hoping that you had found a way to survive it all, and it looks like you have. So that's the priority.
I'm very thankful I didn't do what that what the doctor wanted me to do. I can't blame him, because most people I don't think have the level of discipline it takes to only eat that kind of food and nothing else.
Right.
It's like, and people think, well, I can eat this good kind of food and this good kind of food and then my pizza. And it's not like that. It's like a fly on the hood of your paint job. It wrecks the whole thing.
Right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Brett, thank you so much for spending the time and making the time to have this conversation. And I really hope that I can get by someday and say hello. It would be really good to see you guys again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I would enjoy that.
All right.
So I hope so too.
Well, you take care, and give your lovely wife a hug for me, and
I'll do that.
Tell her that we've missed her, and it's so good to have talked to you. I mean, it's good to find out the whole story.
Yep. Well, I'm glad to be able to spread the news.
Excellent. All right. Well, you take care, and I'll let you know what's going to happen with this, and if you're still on social media, I'll be tagging you, and
okay.
Hopefully you enjoy to listen to it.
I will do that.
All right. Thank you, and have a great evening.
All right. Thanks, babe. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.